So this is also a separate short note. Ovulation, definition, expulsion or discharge, expulsion, discharge or release of or pushing out of the secondary oocyte from the ovary is known as ovulation. The expulsion, discharge, release or pushing out of the secondary oocyte from the ovary. So now this is expelled outside the surface of the ovary. This is known as ovulation, and it occurs on the 14th day of the cycle of the 28 days, and usually it occurs 14 days prior to next division. If there is this is of 28 days, so it occurs on the 14th day. If cycle is 29 days, it occurs on the 15 days. If cycle is 26 days, it occurs only on the 12th day. So the later 14 days are fixed, earlier days are not fixed, so it varies according to the total days of the cycle. So this is the definition. It occurs on the 14th day, and the cell is on the stage metaphase of the second meiotic division. And now this oocyte, secondary oocyte, and the polar body, zona pellucida, and some cells of the corona radiata. These three things are discharged, four things. So the secondary oocyte, polar body, zona pellucida, and few cells of cumulus force known as corona radiata. These things are discharged, and the other parts of the graphene follicle are left behind, and left behind part is known as the corpus luteum. Left behind part, which contains the theca cells, theca layers, granulosa cells. Now these cells become the full of glycogen and the yellowish luteal cells, and they start producing progesterone. So this is the left behind part, theca interna, theca externa, granulosa cells, and only these parts are expelled out. And what is the reason of expulsion? Number one, the reasons of ovulation. Number one, the abrupt increased release of LH hormone from the pituitary gland. This is known as LH surge. Abrupt increased release of LH hormone known as LH surge. So due to this, the ovulation occurs, and this what it does. So if this is ovary and this is the Graafian follicle, so here surface of the ovary becomes thin and weak. This point is known as stigma, and now, so this is the one reason, LH surge, stigma formation, and this also, LH surge also increase the pressure in the liquor antrum, and this pressure pushes the oocyte through this stigma outside the ovary. So due to mechanical pressure of the this liquor antrum, this is pushed out. So the weak point and this, the increased amount of liquid and the pressure in the liquid pushes the oocyte outside the ovary, and this is known as ovulation. So it occurs on the 14th day, and these things are released. Left behind part is known as corpus luteum, and reasons LH surge, stigma formation, and the mechanical pressure pushing the oocyte. So this oocyte is captured by the fallopian tubes. Now next phase is the luteal phase. Corpus luteum releases or excretes the progesterone, and which enters into the blood and reaches the uterus, and controls the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle. So on the 26th day, if there is no fertilization, note, if no fertilization, so no stimulus to the corpus luteum, and it starts degenerating. It starts degenerating and defunctioning, and now release of the progesterone decreases, and ultimately the halted, and this is known as ischemic phase or the degenerative phase of the corpus luteum. And now the color of the corpus luteum becomes white. That's why it is known as corpus albicans. So this is the ovarian cycle, and the first is the pre-antral phase, then the antral phase, then the pre-ovulatory phase, then the ovulation, then luteal phase, then the degenerative or the ischemic phase, corpus albicans. So the bodies of the follicles which are degenerated before Graafian follicles are known as corpus atraticum. So there are three types of corpora: corpus atraticum, corpus luteum, corpus albicans. This is the ovarian cycle, and now next cycle starts after 28 days again 20 the follicles, they come out and enter into the cycle, other remain. So these cyclic changes, they continues up to the age of menopause, when there is no ovarian cycle, that is about 45 to 50 years. 45 to 50 years. It means in the last cycle, when the 20 ovarian primordial follicles, they take part in the cycle, so those follicles, they remain in the diplotein phase of the first meiotic division. It means diplotein phase of the prophase 1 can extend up to 45 to 50 years, longest phase. So only from the 50,000, 40 to 50,000 primordial follicles, only the 500 oocytes, they are ovulated, they are reaches the stage of Gaffin follicle, and they are ovulated. 500, so only 500 cycles. So from 20 million to 500 only. These 500 becomes useful. Other, they remain, or they are sporting. So ovarian cycle. So the oogenesis never completes until fertilization. Mind it, oogenesis never completes until fertilization. So it remains in the secondary oocyte if there is no fertilization. So no completion of the second meiotic division. So no ovocytes are formed. It means fertilization is necessary to complete the oogenesis. So now the oogenesis is an interrupted process. It is interrupted in the before birth, then after birth, then after puberty, cyclic changes, then again in the menopause, the cycles are ceased, no further cycles. So this is how oogenesis interrupted process and starts in the intrauterine life.